The story begins by showing that even in the modern world, monsters still wrestle inside massive stadiums to protect the honor of their cities. Every city has its own monster wrestler who fights for pride and respect. But the truth is, thousands of years ago, powerful titans rose from deep beneath the earth. These titans started fighting each other, and when humans witnessed these giant battles, they turned them into a sport. Monsters began fighting inside arenas, and this sport became known as monster wrestling. Now we are introduced to a city called Stoker, a city that once gave the world a legendary team, Rayburn and his coach Jimbo Coyle. Together, they created history by winning the Big Belt Championship 9 times, setting an unbeatable record. In their honor, they built a stadium named Jimbo Coyle Stadium in Stoker. But one day, while traveling to another city for a championship match, their ship was caught in a deadly storm and vanished somewhere in the ocean. From that day on, no one ever heard from Jimbo or Rayburn again. After their disappearance, Stoker slowly lost its place in the wrestling world. With no champion left, the city became lifeless, and the Jimbo Coyle Stadium was shut down. Now, after a long time, the stadium has finally been renovated and reopened. This happens because Jimbo Coyle's former assistant, Siggy Marlin, discovers a new monster named Tentacular. He is huge, incredibly strong, and extremely powerful. Siggy believes that Tentacular can defeat England's Bulldog monster and bring the Big Belt back to Stoker. That's why tonight, a massive match is scheduled between Big Gorge, the Bulldog monster, and Tentacular inside Jimbo Coyle Stadium. People from all over are arriving to witness this fight. The stadium workers are thrilled because their sales have increased a lot due to this event. We are then introduced to a young girl named Winnie, who is Jimbo Coyle's daughter. Her mother runs a gift shop inside the stadium. Winnie is very excited about the match, and she feels happy seeing so many visitors inside her father's museum. Everyone remembers Rayburn and Jimbo, the legends who built this stadium together. People truly believe that Tentacular will bring back Stoker's winning days. As soon as Tentacular enters the stadium, the crowd goes wild. His special ability is that he has powerful tentacles instead of hands. Shortly after, England's Bulldog monster Big Gorge enters the ring. Nobody likes him, and everyone hopes that Tentacular will win. The match begins, and Big Gorge and Tentacular start fighting each other. Big Gorge clearly has the upper hand, and Tentacular struggles in round 1 and round 2. That's when Winnie notices something important. Every time Big Gorge attacks, he licks his nose first. Winnie rushes to tell this to Tentacular, but Siggy gets angry and tells her that a little girl is not allowed near the ringside. Winnie insists and explains her observation. When Tentacular watches Big Gorge closely, he realizes she's right. He thanks Winnie and tells her she did a great job. Round 3 begins, and the fight resumes. This time, Tentacular doesn't give Big Gorge a chance to lick his nose. He keeps attacking non-stop, and soon Big Gorge is knocked unconscious and loses the match. The entire stadium erupts with joy. Stoker finally has its monster champion back. Tentacular is awarded the Big Belt, and he thanks the people of Stoker, saying that he reached this moment only because of their love and support. He tells them that he loves them and will always keep them in his heart. But then Tentacular shocks everyone by announcing that he is leaving Stoker. The monster wrestling announcer Mark asks why he would do that. Tentacular replies that he wants to make history, but he can't do that in Stoker because this city already has too much history. He says he's going to Slitterpool, a city with no legends, where he can create his own legacy. After saying this, Tentacular leaves, and Siggy is forced to go with him. Everyone is left worried, knowing that if Stoker has no monster champion, the stadium may shut down once again. We then see that all the shop owners in Stoker become extremely worried. They had invested all their money into renovating the stadium, and now everything feels like it's falling apart. Soon, the mayor of Stoker arrives and tries to calm everyone down. He tells them that he knows the city is going through a very difficult time, but the world is changing. He then asks the councilwoman to explain the situation to everyone. The councilwoman tells them that maintaining a stadium costs a huge amount of money. If the city doesn't have a monster wrestler, there will be no income, and without money, the stadium will have to shut down, which would be a disaster for Stoker. Still, nobody knows what to do. That's when the mayor reveals a solution. He says that the owner of the Slitterpool franchise has offered a large amount of money to buy the stadium. They plan to tear it down and turn the land into a parking lot. Hearing this, everyone is shocked. Winnie steps forward and tells the mayor that he can't do this to Jimbo Coyle Stadium, but the councilwoman replies that if they don't accept the offer, the entire city will go bankrupt. Winnie argues that without monster wrestling, the city has no identity. She says they can't destroy everything her father and Rayburn built together. Winnie then remembers her father's words. Jimbo used to say that when you fall down, you must always try to stand back up. The mayor sadly tells her that there's nothing he can do. The city has taken a massive loan on the stadium, and they only have 90 days left to repay it. He tells Winnie that if she truly wants to save the stadium, she would need to bring back a monster like Tentacular, something that seems impossible. Everyone feels hopeless, and Winnie is heartbroken. She walks back into the stadium, where memories from her childhood come rushing back. She She remembers how her father and Rayburn used to win matches together. Jimbo had taught her that to win any match, you must know everything about your competitor. That's why he used to write detailed notes about every monster in his book. He also taught her that with the right balance of heart and mind, any fight can be won. This fills Winnie with determination. She goes home, takes out her father's book, and tells her mother Maggie that she's going to find a new monster for Stoker. Maggie tells her that this isn't her responsibility and that she doesn't need to do this. But Winnie replies that she is Jimbo Coyle's daughter, and if her father were alive, he would have done the same. With that, she leaves for Pitts Moor. Pitts Moor is home to a bubblehead factory, where illegal monster wrestling takes place and people gamble on the fights. When Winnie arrives, she feels terrified at first. The place is dark and dangerous, but she gathers her courage and walks inside. She tells the monsters that she can get them a real match in Stoker, in the big leagues, and that she will be their coach. The monsters burst out laughing. They don't take her seriously because she's just a little girl. They mock her, and Winnie feels crushed. No monster is willing to help her. That's when a man sitting nearby tells her not to worry. He says that luck can change at any moment. He explains that he's placed all his money on a monster named Steve because Steve always loses. But today, he feels like Steve might finally win. When Winnie looks at Steve, she suddenly realizes something shocking. Steve is Rayburn's son, Rayburn Jr., and she used to play with him as a child. At the same time, Steve is trying to lose on purpose to his friend Piggy, because the boss of this wrestling ring pays him to lose. Winnie calls out Steve's name, and Steve recognizes her instantly. He panics, not wanting his secret to be revealed, and tries to push her away. But during this chaos, Steve accidentally defeats Piggy. Steve is terrified. Just then, the boss of this illegal wrestling ring arrives, Lady Mayhem, a massive and terrifying monster. She tells Steve that she paid him to lose the match. Steve nervously explains that he meant to lose, but he won by mistake, and reminds her that he's the biggest loser in the business. Lady Mayhem isn't amused. She tells Steve that she has lost a lot of money because of him, and now he must repay 10 times the amount she lost. Hearing this, Steve is completely devastated. Just then, Winnie steps in and tells Steve that she can help him. Lady Mayhem coldly warns Steve that she doesn't want to see him again until he brings her money back, and then she leaves. Steve is completely shaken. He tells Winnie that he doesn't want to talk to her, but Winnie explains that she can help him earn that money because he can become a real monster wrestler and fight an official match in Stoker. Steve immediately refuses and says he never wants to go back to that place. Winnie then tells him that she has her father's playbook, and with its help she can train him and get him a big match in Stoker. That way both of their problems can be solved. Steve laughs at her and mocks her, asking how she could possibly train him. At that moment, Lady Mayhem returns and yells at Steve, asking why he's still standing there and demanding her money. She brutally beats Piggy, and seeing this, Steve becomes terrified. Finally, he agrees to go with Winnie. They both head towards Stoker. Since the city is far away, Winnie asks Steve to give her a ride. Steve agrees, but only on one condition. Winnie must promise never to tell anyone his real name, Rayburn Jr. Winnie agrees, and they begin their journey. By the next morning, they reach Stoker. Winnie takes Steve inside the stadium to the old training area where monsters used to practice. Being there brings back painful memories for Steve, memories of training with his father as a child. But Steve never enjoyed wrestling. He only loved dancing. His father Rayburn used to tell him that if he wanted to become like him, he had to stop doing fancy dance moves and train seriously. These memories make Steve uncomfortable. Winnie understands his pain and tells him that she knows he doesn't want to stay there. But if they don't do this, the stadium will be destroyed and turned into a parking lot. Steve replies that he likes wrestling, but he doesn't want to become like his father. He wants to do something different. Winnie tells him to get some rest because training will start at 6 a.m. the next morning, and then she leaves. The next morning, Winnie wakes up early and gets ready to head to the stadium. Her mother comes to her and asks if she's ready to become a coach. Winnie hesitates and asks if her mother really thinks she can do this. Her mother smiles and tells her that she'll never know unless she tries. Winnie rides her father's bike to the stadium, where she finds Steve fast asleep. She tries hard to wake him up, but he refuses to get up. Steve lazily tells her, "Just get me one match. I'll handle the rest." Winnie agrees. She quickly arranges a match where Steve has to face a powerful gorilla monster named Jackson. Jackson is incredibly strong, so Winnie starts giving Steve information like a real coach, but Steve doesn't listen, and the match begins. Just like in the illegal ring, Steve starts pretending to lose on purpose. Winnie immediately tells him that this is a real match, and that no one pays you to lose here. She then explains her plan. Jackson is strong, but he has very poor stamina. If Steve keeps running and dodging, Jackson will get tired. Steve finally listens. He avoids Jackson's attacks, keeps moving around the ring, and slowly exhausts him. In the end, Steve wins the match. Winnie is overjoyed, and for the first time, Steve actually feels good about winning. Meanwhile, we see Tentacular and Slitterpool slowly defeating one monster after another and building an unstoppable record. Back in Stoker, Winnie tells Steve that they need to take training seriously. She starts teaching him everything from her father's playbook. But Steve is lazy, overweight, and struggles with every exercise. He keeps falling down again and again, which makes Winnie furious. She snaps at him and says that he'll never learn anything. Steve fires back, saying that she doesn't know how to teach. In anger, he tears apart Jimbo Coyle's book. Almost immediately, he realizes his mistake. He apologizes to Winnie and explains the real reason he left Stoker. Steve tells her that everyone wanted him to become exactly like his father, Rayburn, but he never wanted that. He wanted to be himself. As he says this, Steve becomes deeply emotional and sad. But this moment helps Winnie realize something important. She shouldn't train Steve the way her father trained Rayburn, so she asks Steve what he truly loves doing the most. Steve smiles and tells her that the one thing he loves more than anything in this world is salsa dancing. He's actually an amazing dancer. Winnie loves this idea, and it sparks a new plan in her mind. She begins training Steve using dance, because in wrestling, nearly 80% of success comes from footwork. Slowly, Winnie teaches Steve how to fight using dance moves. With his salsa footwork, Steve starts winning matches one after another. The people of Stoker are thrilled. Seeing this success, Winnie also starts practicing salsa herself so she can train Steve even better. Over time, a strong friendship forms between them. They keep winning matches, and soon they start earning good money as well. Eventually, Winnie and Steve appear live on TV with announcer Mark. Mark asks Winnie what their next move is. Winnie confidently announces that they're ready for their next big match in Stoker. She issues an open challenge to all monster coaches, saying they're ready to fight anyone, anytime. Tentacular watches all of this on TV. Soon after, Winnie receives a call from King Gorge's coach, confirming that they're ready to fight Steve in Stoker. Winnie is overjoyed because they've finally secured a home match. Meanwhile, we see King Gorge, who no longer wants to fight. Ever since Tentacular defeated him, he's been living in fear. Back in Stoker, preparations for the big match begin. But when Winnie and Steve arrive at Jimbo Coyle Stadium, they're shocked to see workers removing equipment from the stadium. Winnie confronts the councilwoman, asking what's going on. The councilwoman explains that the mayor has gone to Slitterpool to sell the stadium to its owner, Jimothy. Winnie insists that there's no need to sell the stadium because their next match is scheduled there, but the councilwoman says there's nothing they can do. The mayor has already left to sign the deal. We then see the mayor arriving at Slitterpool Stadium to finalize the deal with Jimothy. Suddenly, Winnie and Steve show up as well. Winnie pleads with the mayor, saying the stadium doesn't need to be sold. Steve has become Stoker's new champion, and fans will come to watch him. With ticket sales, they can repay the loan. She also reminds them that tomorrow's match against King Gorge is already scheduled. Tentacular mocks them. He says King Gorge hasn't even left his house since the day Tentacular defeated him, and that he's completely broken and won't fight again. Tentacular then reveals the truth. The stadium is shutting down because he wants it destroyed. Winnie asks him why. Tentacular admits that no matter how many matches he wins, people will always compare him to Rayburn and say he'll never be as great. So he wants to erase the stadium itself, so everyone will forget Rayburn forever. Steve snaps and calls Tentacular crazy. Tentacular attacks Steve and mocks him, saying that dancing is not wrestling. Winnie steps in, begging Tentacular to stop. She tells him that the stadium means everything to this city, and pleads with him not to take it away. But Tentacular coldly replies, "This isn't about you. This is about me." At that moment, Jimothy signs the papers. Winnie is devastated. She turns to Siggy and asks if it really feels right to destroy the stadium that he helped build with her father and Rayburn. Siggy replies that he liked her father and respected what he accomplished with Rayburn, but now it's his turn to make history with Tentacular. He cruelly adds that it's probably a good thing her father isn't alive to see this madness. These words completely break Winnie. Later, we see Winnie sitting alone on a rooftop, crying. Steve approaches her, but Winnie tells him to leave. She says he already has enough money to repay Lady Mayhem, so he doesn't need her anymore. She asks him to leave her alone. Through tears, Winnie admits that she thought she was saving her father's legacy, but instead she feels like she's destroyed the Coyle family name. Steve tells Winnie that she can do what he did, change her name and run away somewhere else. But Winnie replies that this might work for him, not for her. She says that if she's not Winnie Coyle, then she's nothing. After saying this, she walks away. Soon, the news spreads everywhere that Steve will no longer fight any matches. Later, Steve goes to repay Lady Mayhem. He hands over all the money to her assistant. Lady Mayhem tells him that he has become very famous, and tonight, people have placed huge bets on his victory. But just like always, she orders him to lose the match, so she can keep all the money. She cruelly reminds him that he has always been her best loser. These words break Steve's heart. Inside his locker room, Steve looks at his father's photo. That moment gives him strength. He decides that he will protect the stadium his father helped build. Steve rushes to Winnie and tells her that he needs his coach back. But Winnie is completely broken inside. She tells him that they are nothing, just a joke. Steve replies that what she's feeling now is exactly how he has felt his entire life. He says he was always running away because he believed he could never become what people expected him to be. Steve tells Winnie that now she's with him and even if he doesn't win the big belt, at least he won't be a loser anymore. He thanks her for never letting him lose. Hearing this, Winnie becomes emotional and hugs him. Steve promises her that he will help save her stadium. Meanwhile, we see Tentacular and Jimothy announcing that the stadium will be demolished and turned into a parking lot. No one is happy about it, but Tentacular doesn't care. Tentacular prepares to destroy the stadium using explosives. Just in time, Winnie and Steve arrive and cut the bomb wires, saving the stadium. Winnie challenges Tentacular and says that they're here to fight him right here in Stoker. Tentacular laughs and asks why he should fight a loser like Steve. Steve steps forward and declares that his name isn't just Steve, he is the son of the greatest monster wrestler, Rayburn. Everyone is shocked to learn that Steve is Rayburn Jr. The people of Stoker explode with happiness, and the news spreads everywhere. Winnie tells Tentacular that if he truly wants to erase Rayburn's legacy, then he must first defeat Rayburn's son. Tentacular angrily promises to destroy Steve. Winnie reminds Tentacular that she was the reason he defeated King Gorge. She challenges him to fight Rayburn Jr. in Stoker Stadium if he truly has the courage. Tentacular agrees, but he's furious. In anger, he throws Jimbo Coyle's statue far away. Now the entire city of Stoker stands with Winnie and Rayburn Jr. Together, they build a special training ground where Steve must overcome every obstacle and reach Jimbo Coyle's statue. Steve trains day and night, failing again and again, but after many attempts, he finally clears all the barriers and reaches the statue. Seeing this, Winnie smiles and tells him that he's ready. The next day, people from far and wide arrive at Stoker Stadium to witness the historic fight. The crowd is electric. Rayburn Jr. makes a stylish entrance into the ring, and the people of Stoker cheer loudly. Then Tentacular enters the ring, carrying the big belt. He looks incredibly powerful, and Steve starts to feel nervous. He knows that if he loses today, he'll become a joke in his father's name. Winnie steps in and encourages him. She tells Steve that their fathers wrote their own stories, and now it's their turn to write theirs. This fills Steve with confidence, and he prepares for the fight. The first round begins. Tentacular attacks aggressively, trying to crush Steve, but thanks to his dance-based footwork, Steve keeps dodging every move. Tentacular can't land a single hit, and the first round ends. Tentacular is furious. That's when Siggy leans in and tells him, "You practiced dancing too, now it's your turn." As round 2 begins, Tentacular starts copying Rayburn Jr.'s dance moves. Using the same rhythm and footwork, Tentacular begins landing heavy blows on Rayburn. Even then, Rayburn Jr. refuses to give up. He stays on his feet, and round 2 also comes to an end. Furious, Tentacular tells Rayburn that he is a disgrace to his father's name. He warns him to quit the match now, or he'll be destroyed in the next round. Siggy rushes over to Winnie and begs her not to send Steve out for the next round. He warns her that Tentacular will kill him and tells her to think about her monster. Winnie starts to agree and prepares to throw in the towel, but Steve stops her. Winnie tells Steve that the stadium is just a building. His life matters more, but the people of Stoker are cheering for him, and Steve wants to break Tentacular's arrogance. He tells Winnie that he will fight the third round, but they need a new plan. He explains that if he attacks Tentacular first, Tentacular won't be able to strike back. Winnie understands. She doesn't throw the towel. The third round begins. Winnie tells Rayburn that if Tentacular grabs him, he must strike back with everything he has. Filled with determination, Steve charges at Tentacular and knocks him to the ground. An intense and thrilling fight breaks out between the two. Rayburn Jr. starts dominating the match, and the crowd goes wild. Tentacular fights back, but Rayburn grabs his tentacles and counters with powerful strikes. Just then, Tentacular smashes Rayburn with a steel chair. Both monsters crash to the ground, badly injured and knocked unconscious. After a tense moment, Tentacular slowly gets back on his feet, but Rayburn Jr. remains motionless. The crowd is terrified. Suddenly, the people of Stoker begin clapping and chanting Rayburn's name. Hearing the crowd, Rayburn regains consciousness. He rises to his feet, launches one final attack, and defeats Tentacular once and for all. Rayburn Jr. wins the big belt. The stadium erupts with joy. Stoker has its champion again, and more importantly, their stadium is saved. Siggy apologizes to Winnie for his terrible behavior. The city celebrates together, and everyone begins dancing inside the stadium. Sometimes, winning isn't about strength, it's about never giving up. If this story touched your heart, tap like, subscribe, and share it with your friends because stories like this are better when they're shared. See you in the next one.